Joining me to discuss retired Navy Lieutenant Commander Steve Rogers. Steve, great to see you as always. You say the next phase in the war on terror will be fought here in the homeland. Describe what that chilling prediction will look like.
Well, I've got to tell you, President Biden believes that the withdrawal of American troops from Afghanistan will end the war on terrorism. My fear is that it'll start a new war on a new battlefield here in America. As an experienced intelligence officer, I could tell you that the terrorists around the globe, no doubt in my mind, they're already creating cells. No doubt in my mind that many of the people leaving Afghanistan are terrorists. They haven't been vetted the way they should be vetted. And keep in mind that we have a pathway here to America called the Mexican-American border. When I worked at the FBI National Joint Terrorism Task Force as a military intelligence officer, that was our greatest concern during the Iraqi war and, of course, this extended Afghan war. So no doubt in my mind that we better strengthen our homeland security apparatus or we're in for some real trouble.
Yeah, Steve, to that point, you mentioned what essentially is an open border there at the U.S.-Mexico border. Plus now, terrorists have a planning ground. It's called Afghanistan. Are our intel services, our U.S. intel services, up to the challenge that this increased burden is going to place on them?
I've got to tell you, I believe that up until this occurred. I mean, we had some of the greatest, strongest, effective intelligence agencies on the planet. But I just can't wrap my arms around how on earth did they tell the American people, if it was them, I believe it was Biden who actually did it, that it would take 60 to 90 days for the Taliban to move into Kabul when it took 6 to 9 days. Something's wrong somewhere. There's a breakdown either between the intelligence agencies and President Biden or an epic failure on the part of our intelligence agencies. I don't believe that's the case. Somebody, the White House, did not take heed what our intelligence agencies gave them.
Moving on from intelligence agencies, we will need our allies throughout the world to help us with regard to preventing terror here in the homeland. Here's the assurance from Antony Blinken that the world is on our side. Listen.
114 countries have made very clear that it is their expectation that the Taliban will permit freedom of travel going past August 31st. We have very significant leverage to incentivize the Taliban to make good on its commitments.
Steve, are you confident in that leverage that Antony Blinken discusses?
Absolutely not. President Biden, the White House, gave the Taliban leverage. We've got thousands of Americans stranded there. Could you imagine giving them a list of Americans and believing that the Taliban's going to escort them to the airport? You handed our enemies exactly what they needed to have leverage over us. Antony Blinken he just doesn't have a clue. And the fact of the matter is that the Taliban now has the upper hand, compliments of the White House.
There's also the little matter of China, and I say that tongue-in-cheek. All eyes, of course, over the last couple of weeks focused on Afghanistan, but it does have real-world implications for what, quite frankly, is our main enemy in China. When do you expect China to really test our resolve on Taiwan in light of this Afghan mess?
Sooner rather than later. They have their fingerprints all over the operations of the Taliban. They've already sent a carrier task force, I believe, close to the Taiwan border, and fighter jets flew into Taiwan airspace. And by the way, President Xi did a few weeks ago send a message to Taiwan, more or less saying, hey, you know what? Look at your American allies. Look what they did to help the Afghan people. So I think rather sooner than later that the Chinese are going to make a move. And again, are we up to it? I would hope so, but I fear we're not at this time.
Just quickly, before I let you go, 10 seconds, what would our response be if tomorrow, on the anniversary or on the 31st of August, which is obviously the big day we're all focused on, they decide, hey, we're really going to make life tough on America. We're going to go into Taiwan.
Well, I don't know what our response would be, but I would hope it would be overwhelming military force. Obviously, we're not going to hit the mainland in China, but there are assets we have that could send a message. But it has to be military. No more negotiating. You have to strike and strike hard and decisively.
Lieutenant Commander Steve Rogers, as always, a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.